"You only lost a child, she lost love," he said to her. Caroline West was abandoned by her husband, whom she loved, for his ex-lover, and Marie. To make matters worse, he left her when she needed him the most. Heartbroken over her loss and feeling betrayed, Caroline decided to expose Marie for who she truly is: manipulative, evil, and vile. She is determined to bring down those who have hurt her child and will do everything in her power to punish them. What happens when love turns to hate and passion becomes poison? Find out in this mesmerizing tale of love, pain, passion, and deception. Ding! This novel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. In the 8th week of my pregnancy, I slipped and fell in the bathroom. The severe pain and the blood that I saw beneath my skirt terrified me to the point where I called my husband for help. However, he only barked at me indifferently. "Don't be so dramatic. Can't you be smarter and dial 911 for an ambulance? Anne is about to give birth, she needs me more at this moment. All you've lost is a child, but what she's losing is love." After my husband hung up, I couldn't reach him anymore. I closed my eyes in despair. I no longer wanted this shattered marriage. When I awoke, it was midnight. A medical record of the miscarriage was on my bedside table. I picked it up with trembling hands. One teardrop, then another, fell onto the papers. Even though I was mentally prepared, I couldn't help but feel the pain in my heart. I was sobbing silently in the dead of the night. My baby, he didn't even get a chance to see this beautiful world before leaving me. Even with the knowledge that I lost our child, his father remained indifferent, choosing instead to stay by the side of his moonlight lover. Our child was deemed less important than her child. He told me to dial 911 and call an ambulance, but wasn't he supposed to do that as my husband? He once told me that if anything happened, I should call him, and he would come to me as soon as he could. Such a laughable promise. He never kept it. No matter what, whenever he gets anywhere near. And he chooses her over me. I remember the day I found out I was pregnant. I excitedly brought the test results back home to show Jack. I was looking forward to him embracing me. I found him arranging a nursery. I was secretly delighted, wondering how he found out about my pregnancy. He was happily decorating, holding a maternity guide in one hand and a doll in the other. There was tenderness in his eyes that I had never seen before. I embraced him from behind, whispering gently, "Honey, so you knew about my pregnancy? Isn't it too early to arrange a nursery?" I remember the dazed look on his face at that time, a deep gaze at me. He wasn't surprised about my pregnancy, instead, he looked exceedingly weary. "The nursery is for Anne's child. She's a woman who is both divorced and pregnant. It's not easy for her. Furthermore, she is in this predicament due to her deep love for me, which led to the misunderstanding between her and her husband, causing discord between them. I can't bear it. Caroline, you should understand me, right?" My head buzzed at that moment, and my face turned white as a ghost. I can't understand, nor am I willing to accept the unceasing assistance he is providing for Anne. It turns out he has been secretly interacting with her forever, unable to sever ties with her. And he even has plans to bring her home and let her rest for the sake of pregnancy. No wonder, eh? When he discovered my pregnancy, there was no surprise, only a strange look on his face. With 2 women pregnant at the same time, he has no way to replicate himself, he has to choose to abandon one. And I am the one that's being abandoned. That one night, when I had a major quarrel with him, he called me narrow-minded and short-sighted. Just like a shrewish wife, driving her husband to leave the house every chance she gets. Then he grabbed his coat, stormed out, and slammed the door behind him. In this way, he expressed his dissatisfaction. That day marked the beginning of the cracks in our marriage. He's been gone for 2 months, and he wouldn't have returned had I not pleaded with him to do so. Having a miscarriage is not a major operation, so there's no need for hospital admission. After tidying up my belongings, I left the hospital room. But then I heard the voice of Jack. It sounded as though he was coaxing a child. Approaching the partially ajar door, I saw him gently holding a bowl of nutritious cereal in his hand. The way he was behaving towards the person in front of him was as if she was his whole world. Spoonful after spoonful, he patiently fed it to Anne. Amazingly, he, an utter clean freak, wiped the corner of her mouth with his sleeve. Initially, and refused to eat, pouting and acting spoiled. It wasn't until Jack patiently persuaded her that she finally relented. This reminded me of a past incident when I had a high fever, my head was hot to the touch, and I was unable to rise from the bed. He didn't come to check on me, instead, he threw himself into his study room to work, only instructing the nanny to take care of me. But I yearned for my lover's care, acting petulant and refusing to take my medicine. He glanced at me displeased and force-fed me the hot soup rudely. I coughed due to the hasty consumption, causing the soup to splash onto his sleeve. With a creased brow, he quickly stood up and shouted, "Don't you know that I'm a clean freak?" Then infuriated, he unbuttoned his shirt and disgustedly threw it into the waste bin. Because of this, I blamed myself for being useless. Now I realized that his obsession with cleanliness was not as serious as he claimed. It all came down to whether he was willing or not. Jay, as she fondly calls him, Caroline told me that she fell last night, she might suffer a miscarriage. "Do you want to go home and check on her?" And said to him, but her hands were tightly gripping his wrist. Deep down, she didn't want to let him go. "There is no need, it's just a child, we still have a chance to have one later. You're different, staying alone in the hospital, lonely and helpless. As your childhood sweetheart, I need to stay and take care of you." Jack gently stroked her long hair with his hand, his face filled with a warm smile. He wanted to rest and nurture her pregnancy. After hearing his words, the corners of her mouth slightly curled up, clearly pleased with his answer. Still feigning innocence, she continued, "I'm afraid Caroline will misunderstand our relationship. She will be upset that you're always helping me. She wouldn't dare. She has always deeply loved me and can't leave me. You can rest assured, no one will bother you." Jack confidently spoke, without realizing that I had already let him go, and slightly furrowed her brows in displeasure. She didn't like to hear about how I deeply loved Jack. No one knows better than me how two-faced and deceitful she is. Unlike before, I no longer barge in creating a fuss. Instead, I left quietly. Once I got home, I showered with warm water and lay on the bed preparing to rest. Jack, contrary to his usual behavior, came home and shouted my name in the living room. I ignored his calls and continued to look at some documents on my phone. After a while, he entered the room. He was bare-chested as he approached me. I put down my phone and closed my eyes before he came in. I refused to look at him. His approach repulsed me. This chest that once made me feel secure, now only disgusted me. Under my nightdress, I felt his hot palm on my legs. "Wife, don't be angry anymore. I promise I won't mess around with Anne. If we can't keep the baby, we still have a chance to have another." As he finished speaking, he bent down to kiss the back of my head. I abruptly opened my eyes, struggling with a wave of nausea, and pushed him away. Caught off guard, he fell backward. Bang! When he stood up, his eyes were heavily darkened. "Caroline, sweetheart, there are limits even to lunacy. I've already humbled myself and spoken gently to you, what more do you want? Don't forget that you were the one who first pursued me. If you continue to throw tantrums and not appreciate kindness, then..." He didn't finish his sentence, but his eyes were tightly glued on me. What truly disgusted and disappointed me was that I miscarried 2 days ago. He didn't even care whether my body was okay, he just wanted to. He didn't even ask a single question about our child, whether he was still here or not. I was gasping for breath, my laughter filled with sorrow. "Caroline, oh Caroline, has it dawned on you yet? This man is not worth your love." Seeing my smile only served to fuel his anger further. He gripped my wrist tightly, increasingly using more force. But as much pain as I was in, I didn't make a sound. Even if I screamed out in pain, he just accused me of being melodramatic, making fun of my apparent act to attract sympathy. "What are you laughing at? You look just like a mad woman. Look at you, what a ghastly figure you are. Jack, have you ever loved me? Have you ever loved our child?" I verbally interrupt him, fearlessly looking at him with unblinking eyes. Only then does he notice my pale, blood-drained face. Instinctively, his eyes meet my belly. Did we not manage to save the baby? For a moment he is lost, stricken, but quickly regains his composure. As ever, he disregards my direct question, talking around the issue instead. In his world, he expects me to fawn over him like a dog thrown a bone every time he shows me some sweetness. If he directs his words east, he will not tolerate me looking west. Even when he makes mistakes, he doesn't care if I'm angry, a simple apology from him suffices to erase it. The reason for his audacity was that I chased after him first for several years at that. Even when he tires of me and grows weary of me, I still fly too close to his flame. A kinder way to describe it would be groveling. Come, I'll take you to the hospital for a checkup. Just a look at your face tells me you've not fully recovered. Despite my protests, he forcefully grasps my wrist and drags me out the door. This doesn't look like he's caring for a patient at all. He is clearly afraid that my dad would learn about my situation and blame him. Let go, you don't have to do this. My father is out of town for business. He won't find out. Feel free to go and accompany Anne. He held onto my wrist tightly, no matter how much I attempted to shake him off. I, too, have a temper, and I ducked down and bit deeply into his hand that was gripping my wrist. His eyebrows furrowed in displeasure, but he still refused to let go. That's enough, stop throwing a tantrum at me. Do you think I can't hear the sarcasm in your voice? Don't be jealous of Anne. She lost me, and you gained me. Who has suffered a loss here? It's her. You should be feeling guilty, and take care of her with me until she gives birth to her child smoothly. Hearing such nauseating questions, I bit down harder. This man thinks of himself as a prized possession. Just at that moment, his phone inside his pocket rang. He let go in a single second, quickly pulling out his phone to answer it. Fearing that being a few seconds late would anger Anne, the only person who would contact him in the middle of the night was her. He used to turn off his phone at 10 p.m. because he hated being disturbed by calls during his rest. I remember one time, during a heavy downpour, I was stranded on the subway and couldn't get out. I tried calling him for help, but his phone was off. It wasn't until the next day when I got home safe that he scolded me, suspecting I was out gallivanting. Even after understanding the situation, he didn't alter his phone habits. He continued to switch off his phone promptly at 10 p.m. But now, he's willing to shatter this habit for Anne. The difference between love and indifference is so apparent. Anne, what's wrong? Jack, I just fell accidentally. I'm so scared. Oh my, are you okay? Don't panic, I'll come over to you right away. I'll also call an ambulance on my way. No need, just hurry up and find me, I just got discharged from the hospital. My mom said it's bad luck to be readmitted so soon, it would bring misfortune to my baby. Jack was in such a hurry that he even forgot to change his slippers and rushed out of the house. Bang! He quickly shut the door, wishing he could grow an extra leg to run faster. Looking around the empty house, I couldn't help but laugh at myself with a touch of self-mockery. Blonde-haired bitches are different. When they fall, they don't call 911, emergency services. Instead, they want my husband to come see them, and all will be fine. But Jack is dumb as a goat, couldn't catch what's implied in words. Maybe, he chose to be oblivious. I gently touched my lower abdomen. My child, your dad would rather go save someone else's child than come to the hospital to see you for the last time. My phone screen kept flashing with unread messages on WhatsApp. It was from Anne. As soon as I opened it, I saw a picture of her flipping the bird. She continued her secret attacks with provocative images and taunting remarks at me. Caroline, do you see now? You fell begging him to return home, and I just had to say the word and he wouldn't dare leave. Even if he imagined you lying in a pool of blood, or the child you may have lost. He would simply close his eyes and step out for some fresh air. I merely pretended to fall just now, he was so frightened that he had to rush out to find me. So what if you are his legal wife? The one he loves is me, not you. Even when I cheated on him and left him for another man, he still waited for me in the same place. The one not loved is the mistress. So, you better step back and give up your position as Mrs. West to me. There were no more messages after this. I stared at it for a long time. Until her number came in again, and I picked up the phone with a strange smile. I guess she's not calling to make small talk. Jack must have arrived. To increase my pain and despair, she chose to call me and let me listen to their sweet nothings. As the call connected, I immediately heard my husband's anxious tone and the caring greeting from his friend. "Anne, are you okay?" I was so scared on the way here, almost had my soul scared out of me. His friend commented, "It came to this under your watch, we entrusted her to you." She pretended to defend Jack. "Don't blame him, it's all my fault. Caroline is also pregnant. Jack should go back and take care of her. Otherwise, if she gets angry and divorces him, I'll be the one to blame." After finishing, and began to cry in self-blame. Why is she upset? We don't need such a petty woman who doesn't consider the whole situation. I mean, you're a lone mother with an orphan child. What's wrong with caring more about you? If she were my wife, I'd give her a good slap or two to put her in her place. If she didn't behave, we'd separate. Josh vents his justified anger. He is a childhood friend of Jack. In his eyes, as a common woman, I am not worthy of him. He thinks I am nowhere near Anne, who's a model, neither in temperament, nor in figure, nor education. Once, for Jack's sake, no matter how they made fun of me behind my back, I never spoke up. Now, I'm not going to save anyone's face. I brought the phone to my mouth, ready to retort sarcastically. It's really hard for you guys to meddle so much in Jack's marriage. Send him a message for me, we'll meet at the divorce court. Josh, if you like Anne, man up and chase after her. Don't be a coward. Seeing how concerned you all are about her, I even suspect that one of you could be the father of her child. Who's it going to be? Josh on Monday, Wednesday, or Friday, or Jack on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday? And handle this? Even a wounded lion will fight back. Don't bully honest people. From the other end of the phone, I heard and sobbing, Jack's roaring, and Josh's curses. I chuckled and switched off my phone. I walked up to the full-length mirror, gazed at my porcelain face and slender body, and then turned around to leave. I took out a fiery red dress from the wardrobe and applied some vibrant, exquisite makeup. Picking up my Louis Vuitton bag, with no hesitation, I left. And pressured me to the edge. Now it's time for her to reap what she had sown. I walked into the photocopy shop and printed out all the provocative messages she sent me, along with photos of her whispering sweet nothings to Jack while being in his arms. Not even one can be missed. After getting them printed, I took them straight to the social media platform studio. I reckon Chad would be thrilled with this big surprise I'm delivering. Outside, she is known for her impeccable image, perfect background, and head-turning figure, attracting a large number of followers. Such a person lacking morals and ethics should be put in the public eye. I might as well deliver a copy to her parents to let them see what kind of a daughter they raised. Once the photos were sent out, they became major headlines everywhere. Upon seeing them, Anne's parents nearly vomit blood out of anger. Her fans also turned from fans to haters without hesitation, leaving scornful comments under her Instagram posts. "So you are such a two-faced woman. To think we admired you for so long and even regarded you as our role model. Beat down the mistress, heavily punish the mistress. So hateful. The woman that was hurt by her is so pitiful. Don't just focus on hitting the mistress, that man is not a good person either. Oh my, these people have no basic views at all." The harsh and sharp attacks made Anne faint from anger. She dared not go out, fearing being surrounded and questioned by a pack of angry dogs. Jack angrily called to scold me. "Crazy woman, what on earth are you trying to do? Hurry up and tell the media that it's not like this, and also rush to the hospital to apologize to Anne. Her emotions are unstable right now, and it might affect the fetus. Why are you spreading rumors? With all the glaring evidence, I have no power to refute when I am not completely blinded. You want an apology? Mr. West, what kind of dream are you having in broad daylight? I've sent the electronic divorce agreement to you, hurry up and sign it. After all, I am a jealous woman who is petty and narrow-minded. You're serious, right? Fine, if it's a divorce, then it's a divorce. Let's see who regrets it first." Regret? I almost laughed out loud. The thing I regret the most was falling in love with him blindly, which caused me to suffer immeasurable harm. I have to thank him for his chaotic behavior, which made me come to my senses. From now on, I will take good care of myself. After putting down the phone, I deleted and blocked his WhatsApp number. I know my father will find out about this. I have to go see him. As soon as I got home, I saw my dad standing at the door, seemingly ready to leave. Upon seeing me, his eyes immediately teared up. A sense of grievance and bitterness welled up in my heart at that moment. Dad walked over, his voice trembling as he comforted me. "Child, don't cry anymore. If you feel wronged in the future, remember to come home. Your dad is here. We might be poor, but we will never starve on the streets. Divorce him." Tears kept falling to the ground. At that moment, I cried like a child. In this house, I am a treasure, the gem that my dad holds in the palm of his hand. I lost my mother when I was very young. It was my father who raised me through difficulties. He is a college professor and also the mentor of Jack. No wonder he respects him so much. After staying at Dad's place for a few days, I will have to go back once my health improves. My belongings are all still there, and I will need to pack them up if I am to leave. The electronic divorce agreement I sent to Jack, he hasn't signed yet. I can't help but contact my old classmate, who is a highly respected top-tier lawyer. The cases he took on, he never lost. If I decide to leave, I should get half of his assets. I can't just let and benefit without a fight. As soon as I arrived home, I saw him, with a grim look on his face, standing at the door. It seemed like he hadn't had a good sleep for days. The moment he saw me, he darted over and grabbed my wrist. "Why have you blocked all my contacts? Did you run to your father to tattle that we have bullied you? And claims she didn't do any of those things, that you fabricated it by photoshopping. You need to come with me and kneel to apologize to her." Jack was loudly interrogating me with a barrage of questions. Before I could get a word in, he was towing me along, shouting and tugging at my wrist. I quickly grabbed the doorknob and yelled angrily, "Let go! If you're blind, you could get your eyes checked." She fully deserved what happened to her. I was equally adamant. The idea of kneeling to apologize to her was unthinkable. However, he was determined to bring me to her. I knew the moment I would be there, and would sneakily film my apology and post it on the internet. Suddenly, he tried to hit me, but fearlessly, I raised my head to meet his gaze. His eyes revealed a trace of struggle. That was until his phone rang. It was from his good friend, Josh. "Jack, and is threatening to slit her wrists. Where is your wife? Bring her to me and let her apologize now. If she refuses, a slap in the face will put her in her senses." Jack, after much turmoil, was convinced by his friend. I knew he was worried that something might happen to Anne. He kicked my hand that was holding onto the door handle, and I was thrown onto the floor. "Come with me to apologize. If she forgives you, we will turn over a new leaf. In the future, I will treat you better, give you more attention and love. No need to threaten me with divorce anymore." I barely recovered, and couldn't endure his kick. In pain, he forcefully hoisted me onto his shoulder in a rush to leave. No matter how much I yell or how hard I pound at his back, he never stops. He shoves me into the car and speeds off. It's a violation of one's safety when someone forces their will upon them without their consent. I send a distress message to my law school friend and turn on my location in the hope that he will see it. All this while, he drives and talks to himself. "Honey, I'll treat you better in the future. I promise nothing is going on between me and Anne. We never crossed any moral lines. I love you more than I do her. I promise to see her less and spend more time with you at home. You like kids, right? We can always have more. Kids?" At the mention of my child, rage surges up within me. I violently slap him. "Shut up. You are not fit to be a father. We will never have kids. Divorce is no laughing matter, take me seriously. If you don't believe I'm serious, then wait for the lawyer's letter. I will take you to court." After saying this, I refused to look at his disgusting face anymore. Jack, desperate to explain, regurgitates the same tired excuses. I'm sick of listening, so I simply cover my ears. If he truly loved me, he wouldn't disregard my life and death, allowing me to lie helplessly in a pool of blood, calling for help only for it to fall on deaf ears. Just like now, Despite my resistance, he forces me to apologize to Anne. Arriving at Anne's apartment, he roughly pulls me out of the car. Behave yourself, apologize, and then we can go home. What does he mean by that? Is he implying that unless I apologize, he will keep me locked up? Upon reaching the door, I'm greeted with a loud slap. With fiery eyes, and look like she's ready to tear me apart. Holding her belly, she yells, "Thankfully my child is unharmed, or I'd have claimed your life. Kneel and apologize to me." Josh was also there. He pulled my hair and dragged me in front of her. My so-called loving husband just stood there like a wooden block. He doesn't step in to stop them. In a way, he's accepting it. If it were in the past, I would break down in tears. He's nothing to me now. Caroline, will it kill you to kneel and apologize to Anne? So you won't kneel, huh? I'm gonna beat you until you do. Your child's death is due to his destined misfortune. It has nothing to do with others. How dare you implicate me? These words were followed by another hard slap on my face from her. She had no scruples, knowing both men would back her up. Josh was unhesitatingly at her aid, grabbing my hair and forcing me to kneel. My humiliation brought a satisfied nod from her. Unprecedented rage began to flare within me. I swung a kick towards Josh's groin to give him a taste of what pain is. He let go of me in agony, clutching his groin and hopping around like a toad. I tried to escape, but Jack blocked my way. "You're getting too big for your boots, aren't you? Not only are you unrepentant, but you also hit my friend Josh. Let me tell you, if you continue this way, I'll be the one to divorce you. I won't need you anymore." Great! I couldn't hope for anything more. How do you feel? Porcelain bitch. I turned around to see and laughing heartily. Everything she has done was in anticipation of this day. If not for Jack's presence, she would have popped the champagne and celebrated already. Afraid that she almost gave herself away, her smile disappeared in a flash. Then she continued to act innocent to bait sympathy. "Caroline, I never intended to take your place. This is just your dirty mind at play. Go and apologize to me in front of the media, admit that you stirred up all this trouble. Then I'll forgive you and let you go." Ha, if I went to apologize to the media, I probably wouldn't live to see the next sunrise. So, she's afraid of being cyberbullied too. I would never do such a thing, because she got what she deserved. It is just desserts. Josh, resisting the pain, was about to hit me until Jack stopped him. "Since you refuse to apologize, you'll stay here until you're ready to admit your wrongs." I knew it. He would hold me captive until he forced an apology from me. He even took away my phone, severing all contact with my peers. I glared at his retreating figure, wishing I could run up and kill him. Imprisoning me, even if we're married, could be considered breaking the law. Nightfall was approaching, and the winter season had arrived. I was curled up squatting in a corner when Jack West came in. I didn't look at him, nor did I beg for mercy. My eyes were always fixed on the distant lighthouse. He squatted next to me, his tone filled with reprimand and an unidentifiable emotion. "Still so stubborn? What good does this do you? Just apologize to Anne and we can go home, won't that be good?" I turned my head and spat at him. "Pa." A blob of phlegm hit him on his face. Doesn't he have a cleanliness obsession? I didn't want to see him, I just wanted him to disappear quickly. He didn't flare up in anger, instead, he just took out a tissue to wipe the phlegm off his face. My gaze was filled with disdain and hatred. That made Jack realize too late that perhaps I might not love him anymore. He straightened my head, meeting my gaze. "Why are you looking at me like that? You can't look at me in this way. I am your world, your man." His voice trembled as if he was afraid of losing me. But I didn't care, it was useless even if he regretted it. "Stop, what you just said is disgusting. Go tell it to your blonde-haired bitch and she should like this. Why are you always against her? She's a very kind person. She is not at all like you described. He must be blind and deluded. Do you want to know what she is really like? If you want to know, just wait outside on the balcony. I guarantee you'll be in for a surprise. And will inevitably come in and humiliate me. I'm going to show you what she's really like." The footsteps outside the door are getting louder and closer. Jack, swallowing nervously, finally decides to take a gamble. As soon as he found a hiding place, and walked in, and a victorious smile was plastered all over her face as if she had everything under control. Looking down at me from her high horse, she leisurely strokes her belly. I genuinely feel sorry for you. The person you love deeply behaves this way towards you because of me. Do you hate it? Haha, I bet you do. Without uttering a word, I glance at her coldly, which she interprets as my attempt to stay calm. All you want is to sow discord between us, to ruin our marriage. Then you'd seize the opportunity to steal him away, pretending to be innocent in front of Jack. You'd say, even if I love him, we can't do anything about it. While you wear a different face when facing me, exposing your true nature. I slowly stand up, leaning against the wall, seeing my weak state, and grins sinisterly. How does it matter? He doesn't know anything, he won't believe your words, he only listens to me. It's so easy to fool him. Years ago, I dumped him and ran off with someone else. When that man kicked me to the curb, I came back crying to him, saying that I left the other man because I couldn't let him go. This fool believed me. Really, you both are lapdogs, you lap after him while he laps after me, ha ha ha. I forgot to tell you something. Do you know why you slipped? When you were not at home, Jack gave me the keys. I took the opportunity to squeeze all the dish soap on the floor. How could you not slip? If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for occupying Mrs. West's position and not wanting to give it up. Whatever I want, I'd go to any lengths to get it. I clutch my fists tightly, veins popping up in my hands. I had suspected why there was so much dish soap on the floor. It turns out, she was behind it all. She caused the demise of my son. My wrath was so intense that I almost lost my way. Fortunately, a sliver of sanity told me to restrain. The best part is yet to come. The more Anne talks, the more she enjoys it, oblivious to the figure lurking on the balcony. Right now, he looks like a demon from hell, his eyes smoldering with anger, slowly emerging from the shadows. The calmer he gets, the eerier, he silently steps in, seeing my defeat, and unfurls her feathers proudly like a peacock. Not understanding that she resembles more of a cocky rooster, showing off her plumage at me. I looked at him, his eyes filled with malicious intent behind her back, and laughed heartily. Louder than her laughter, which only made Anne more furious. What are you laughing at? How can you still laugh after a child has been hurt because of me? Did we drive you insane? Think about it, Jack would rather abandon his child to raise another woman's child. If it was me, I would have committed murder. Kill, I want to kill. But there are others who need to murder you more than me. And looked at me with a puzzled expression, my laughter taking on a strange edge. And then her gaze followed mine to her back. I gestured for her to look behind. There is a surprise waiting for you. And had a bad feeling. She swiftly turned her head to look behind, only to meet Jack's bloodshot eyes. She gasped, her face turned pale in an instant. The moment she saw him, her heart was filled with fear. If he doesn't trust my words, then let him hear for himself. I bet he can't deny it any longer, right? You make a great father. Abandoning your flesh and blood to raise a child by a woman who toyed with your emotions. I looked at him with the most disdainful gaze a man could receive, eliciting an expression of endless guilt and sorrow from him. I disdainfully turned my face away from him, gripping the dictaphone tightly in my hand. This was the evidence that could bring them down. Jay, you listen to me. That's enough. Haven't you played him enough? Slap. Slap. Jack lifted his hands in fury, giving, and a heavy slap on both sides of her face. Dazed from the slap, and stared at the man who had always adored her, stunned that he had hit her. He grabbed her by the hair, dragging her in front of me. Kneel, apologize to my wife. How could Anne possibly bring herself to kneel and apologize to me? Initially, she had caught me to make me kneel to her. But things had changed quickly to having her kneel to me. She let out an enraged scream, I will never kneel for this bitch, dream on. At her insult towards me, Jack gave her another heavy slap. He harshly grasped her hair, forcing her to kneel. From above, I looked down at the couple who were once sweet and loving, now fighting brutally. and scratched his face, raising her foot to wildly kick him. Haha, yes, everything was indeed caused by me, you two fools. Oh, and there's also Josh, his wife is probably going to divorce him. How could I let another woman snatch my possessions away? Dream on. Jay, if you want to blame someone, blame your foolishness. Caroline truly loved you. What was the result she ended up with? Jack suddenly turned to look at me, tears were circling in his eyes, and he regretted it. He regretted the harm he had once done to me. In a fit of anger, he raised his foot and kicked over Anne. Josh, who was standing at the door, also rushed over, questioning her about what she had done to his wife. She, however, started laughing loudly. How wonderful, it was a dog-eat-dog scenario among the three of them. I quietly turned around and left, creating space for them. When I found my phone, I couldn't wait to call the police. I wanted to sue her, she had murdered my unborn child. I also wanted to sue Jack, he had confined me. No one could escape. When the police came to arrest them, and crawled out covered in blood, the intense pain made her body shake violently. Her face had lost all color and was as pale as a corpse. She was rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment. But even after she was out of danger, she couldn't escape the punishment of the law. Jack and Josh had been taken into custody for assault and battery. I contacted a lawyer to deliver a divorce agreement to him at the police station on my behalf. He refused to sign it, saying he would only do so when I was present. Left with no other choice, I made a trip to the police station. It had only been 3 days since we last met, but Jack's hair had turned white and a thick black beard had sprouted from his chin. His eyes were vacant as he stared into the distance, only focusing when he saw me. With joy sweeping over his face, he stood up. If his hands weren't handcuffed, he would have reached out to hug me. I crinkled my eyebrows in disgust and kept my distance. You stink. Your body odor is repugnant. Do you even know how clean I am? The smile that had been dancing on his face stiffened as if he was reminded of something. He sank dejectedly back into his chair. He used to resent me for soiling his clothes and treated me coldly. Now the roles were reversed as I found him dirty and smelly, it was my turn to treat him with cold indifference. In pain, he shut his eyes, a single tear rolling down his cheek. Honey, Call me Caroline, stop calling me honey. I reminded him to correct his way of addressing me. Casually, I took the divorce agreement from my lawyer and handed it to him while kindly extending a pen to him. Sign it. Whatever you say, it's pointless. If you feel guilty towards me, then give me more of the property. Unexpectedly, he did agree. He picked up the pen and signed his name with visible pain, his eyes turned reddish as he looked at me. I made a mistake, a grave mistake. I know you cannot forgive me because my foolishness led to the despairing death of our child. And because of my stupidity, you have been wronged. Bang! I slapped him. He fell on his knees crying before me, saying, I'm sorry I hurt you. I didn't even glance at him. Instead, I picked up the divorce agreement and handed it to my lawyer. Only God knows, the moment he signed his name, my tightly clenched heart instantaneously relaxed. It felt as if a weight had been lifted off my chest. I stood up and took a deep breath, feeling an unprecedented sense of relaxation, both physically and mentally. And has reaped what she sowed. Her child is gone, a child she never planned on loving. She only wanted to use the child to manipulate Jack. After she woke up, the police arrested her for murder and sentenced her to 10 years in prison. When she heard the sentence, she collapsed onto the sickbed. As for me, I gained my freedom and a hefty divorce settlement. I decided that from now on, I would love myself more. In the past, I was blind, only revolving around Jack and living a fatigued life. Now, I'm rich and free. Whatever I want to eat, wherever I want to travel to, I could just pack up and go. I've always wanted to visit Paris. I heard it's quite picturesque. Before boarding the plane, I received a call from the police department station. Jack committed suicide by slitting his wrist in prison. His parents phoned me, hoping I would rush back and bid him farewell. It was his last wish. But I'm no longer his wife, naturally, I'd refuse. I resolutely declined this request. Looking out at the sky, I reel back in my chaotic emotions, then walk into the boarding gate with a smile.